Artificial intelligence or AI, a term that a few decades ago circled around in the realms of sci-fi and fantasy, is a reality today. The most evolved AI of our fantasy tales is often sentiment machines scheming to take over the world. We are not there yet, and perhaps reality is far more benign than our imagination. Artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms are now fundamental parts of industries and hence are crucial to building smart cities. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Analytics Insight podcast. And we are diving into a topic that's reshaping how we live, work, and interact with our surroundings: artificial intelligence in smart cities. Now, AI is already enhancing so many parts of urban life, from improving traffic flow to creating safer, more sustainable environments, and even reducing energy consumption. To help us explore the exciting potential and challenges of AI in smart cities, let's welcome Kapil Bardeja, co-founder and CEO of Vehant Technologies. Hi Kapil, how are you doing?
Yeah, hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast today, Kapil. So, of course, we are going to dive deeper into how AI is probably boosting and encouraging the more development of smart cities. We would first like to know more about Vehant Technology. So, if you can help our listeners understand what exactly is Vehant and its specialization or any particular solution the company is offering.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kapil. Vehant Technologies essentially is an IIT Delhi incubated company. We started way back in 2005, me and my co-founder Anup Prabhu and 5 professors of computer science. Idea was to indigenize technology development in India. We were essentially computer vision guys. So AI/ML, as we know today, was known as computer vision 15 years back. And essentially, we work with video and image analysis. So that's our core expertise. We have 3 business lines now. One is security screening, where we have under-vehicle scanning systems, we have X-ray baggage machines, we have explosive detectors. Then we have smart city and safe city business, which is essentially about traffic enforcement, traffic management, and safe city analytics for a city. And the third vertical is essentially enterprise analytics, where we have the same AI ML analytics for, let's say, a premise or a factory or a building, where we can automate either safety compliances or optimization analytics and stuff like that.
Great, thank you for sharing that, Kapil. It's quite exciting to know about Vehant, where the company is actually offering a diverse set of solution specialization service in terms of how probably we can more direct our vision and efforts towards smart city and predictive analytics in smart city development. Having said that, we would also like to know more about you, Kapil. How has the journey been till date? What's the role and contribution towards the company, or what triggered your interest in this specific area?
I belong to an entrepreneur family. My father was also in a business for auto parts. So always wanted to start something of my own. When I was in IIT, I and my co-founder Anup were in the same hostel. So the idea was to see, how could we use technology, which we are building in IIT, to kind of make products and solutions for the Indian market. So that was a whole thought. We started Vehant in 2005. The journey has been really exciting, encouraging, rewarding, and challenging every day. We were essentially the first ones to develop an under-vehicle scanning system, the first one to develop an X-ray baggage machine. We were the first ones to do traffic enforcement systems in a smart city using camera sensors when the whole world was using radars and lidars for enforcement. And there are challenges to it. I'll probably explain that more. So pretty rewarding journey, very satisfied, still passionate about building new products. We are currently also developing 5 products in all the 3 verticals we are operating. So exciting so far.
Great, quite a fantastic journey, I must say, Kapil. And again, thank you for sharing that. Now let's shift our gears towards what smart cities are, and how we are probably shifting towards it. So I think as cities are growing, managing resources, traffic, safety, and energy has become like more complex than ever before. So I think that is where artificial intelligence comes in. It offers more smart solutions that can make urban environments safer, efficient, and even sustainable. And with AI technologies also advancing rapidly, cities around the world are also becoming more connected and smarter in ways that benefit both the residents as well as the environment. We want to understand from you, what does the term smart city actually mean to you, and how do you think AI is playing a very important role in making these cities more smarter and efficient?
So smart city to us is essentially a city which is more intelligent. So to say, smart is a good word to use, but it's more intelligent city wherein they deploy sensors. It could be a camera sensor or a thermal sensor or other kind of sensors to sense certain problems which the city is facing. Just to give an example, we have this TrafScan product, which is essentially a vehicle counting and classifying system. So it's a camera which is deployed on a junction, and it basically counts the number of vehicles which are passing through a particular intersection in all the directions, and also classify them into various categories. Now this input goes to a flow algorithm which essentially looks at the real-time traffic scenario and just changes the pattern of red and green light across, let's say, 4 intersections in a junction. So there could be scenarios which you may have seen where the 3 intersections are red, the fourth one is green, but there is no traffic there. But the controller, which is controlling the red light, is a fixed controller, which means it's going to be 60 seconds for all. Now, a smarter city would essentially use a traffic scan system and look at the real-time flow of the traffic and let's say cut off 20 seconds from the intersection where it is green but there is no traffic or less traffic, and distribute it across 3 intersections, 3 approaches in an intersection to kind of smoothen the traffic flow. So what you have achieved is that you have reduced the wait time, you reduce the petrol consumption, you reduce the time of the person and the fatigue of the person, where a non-smart city would have a system which is more fixed in nature. So we have these adaptive traffic control systems as part of the smart city, which we essentially deploy. The other thing would be, let's say there is a green corridor to be provided to a ambulance, for example, right? So earlier, if you recall, the police had to be deployed. They have to stop the traffic at all the sides. But a smarter city essentially detects or has been kind of fed with a command control system where it says the ambulance has to move from point A to point B. Now the traffic signal red lights, depending on the time it travels, essentially turn green for this ambulance. Or let's say a vehicle which is carrying a live heart or a lung, where you need to give a green corridor to that. So that is a smart city to us from our perspective. But there could be multiple applications of smart city, like a smart LED pole, which has a lower consumption of electricity, switches on its own when the things are dark, rather than a switch-based system. So and as part of the smart city mission, the government had empaneled 100 cities to be deployed with these smart city solutions. There were actually 60 solutions they approved as part of the smart city mission. Traffic enforcement management became top priority because, first of all, the enforcement system gives the revenue back to the city. The rest all are expenses, but here you can actually generate revenue. Surveillance also became important because security, safety of citizens also become a high priority for them. But there were multiple such initiatives the smart city mission could have taken.
Right, yeah, I think it definitely makes sense, and thank you for giving an insightful overview of how AI is transforming these urban cities and urban environments. And given the rapid advancements we are seeing in India specifically, like you mentioned about how the government has approved 60 solutions in terms of smart solutions to drive smart city initiatives. I think it's really important that even smaller cities can prioritize these AI driven projects. So I think if you're talking about overall, I think smart cities are like urban areas that leverage both data and technology that helps in enhancing residents' quality of life, reduce environmental impact, and make city management more efficient. But I think at the core of a smart city is a data generated by various systems. Now, think of traffic cameras or public transportation systems, energy grids, waste management, or even for that matter, street lights. So I think AI analyzes this data to provide more actionable insights that make the city more livable and even functional for that matter. So let's talk about the specifics here. So you mentioned in your earlier responses that you also offer enterprise analytics solutions. So how do you leverage these solutions, the enterprise analytics solution, and how does it complement smart city initiatives by analyzing all these data points?
So one of the things we do in we call it a safe city product, but it's part of the smart city, safe city thing, is that we can, the camera systems can learn patterns. I mean, for example, if there is a high security asset, let's say an oil refinery for that matter, and there are a couple of cameras outside, so the AI which we have can actually learn loitering scenarios. Now, if you have a suspected looking mobike which is coming every day at a certain time, going around the installation of an oil refinery, the face matches to a database of a known criminal, So all that is actually predictive analysis, as we call it. So you actually predict before the event can happen. So there is a potential that this loitering scenario can lead to a some kind of a sabotage in a refinery scenario or an oil installation or a high asset political scenario. So those are the kind of analytics which are more predictive in nature, where you look at the data and predict an event before it happens.
Right, and I think when we're talking about the predictive analytics that you mentioned, so I would like to dive deeper more into it, Kapil, because with the surge in population that's clustering in cities, I think the street traffic has massively increased, and finding a parking space has become increasingly difficult. Parking zones in a few commercially dense areas get more utilized, and city authorities are also finding it difficult to dynamically optimize the pricing based on demand for improving revenue from the parking infrastructure. So I think your AI can definitely provide an optimal solution by predicting demand by parking zones in different areas in the cities, and that can adjust the availability of parking spaces accordingly. So can you help us understand or give us some certain examples of how this predictive analytics can be used in smart city solutions to anticipate issues before they arise?
So there are two ways you can look at the problem. One is the camera AI, which is essentially highlighting the parking slots. Of course, you need to have a coverage of those areas and telling that these parking slots are empty and these are occupied. So that's one part of the AI, which actually is, let's say, a camera-based vision AI, which essentially look at all the parking spaces and consolidates them at a city level or a district level to highlight the parkings which are available or not. Second is essentially a flow algorithm, a data analysis algorithm, which looks at the historical information and tells you that historically Saturdays this parking would be occupied, and hence you need to open up a new area for parking. So there are two kind of analytics at play. One is a real-time analytics giving you real-time feed of the ground situation, and the second one is the backend AI, which essentially analyzes data and predicts the historical trend, saying that it is going to be a Saturday. Now this parking lot, which is normally not required on a weekday, should be opened on a weekend, right? Or a festive scenario, which is that it has learned in the past, or a scenario where you feed in certain information. For example, there is a political rally in a particular city. Now, if you feed in that information, the AI would automatically analyze and say, okay, these many parkings may be required, and hence you open up this particular area as a parking. So these are some of the AI solutions which could do a real-time monitoring of the parking slots and also do a predictive analysis based on the historical data and the real-time information to come out with a more meaningful answer where the parking problem can be better solved. I mean, just as an example.
Right, yeah, definitely makes sense. Just like a follow-up question based on this, like you mentioned about a particular solution and how the city authorities can probably manage the traffic solution and parking challenges in real time. I want to understand in India, especially if I would consider, are we there yet? Are certain cities actually utilizing these solutions? And if not, how long do you think it will still take for urban cities to deploy and implement these solutions rapidly?
So, I mean, the answer would vary depending on the use case. But let's say the traffic management case, which I mentioned about the real-time vehicle count and changing the pattern, is already been done in multiple cities. So, out of 100 cities, at least 60 or 70 of them have these solutions deployed. The only thing is they're not yet deployed at all the intersections. So as part of the, let's say, a pilot project, I mean, a particular city may cover only 20-25% of the junctions to start with, and then gradually move up. So there are multiple cities in India who have deployed such solutions for traffic monitoring and management. As far as people analytics goes, so that's another part of it where you look at the crowd, for example, and then you derive your policing patterns based on the crowd. So one of the examples we recently did was this festival called Magh Mela, which happened 6 months back, which is a precursor for the Kumbh Mela. So where the crowd analytics which we deployed essentially looked at multiple streams of data. So there are multiple approaches which comes to the main, let's say, the place, and then based on the crowd pattern, they would actually stop the crowd or open up another bridge for the movement based on the real-time crowd density information. So these are being deployed now increasingly. With regards to the security analytics, a lot of cities have started moving into a direction of detecting loitering, matching, let's say, the face analytics with the criminal database. So all that has been widely deployed in these 100 smart cities at least, where solutions are deployed. Even smaller cities, government has the initiative of doing 4,000 tier 3, tier 2 cities also as part of the smart city mission. That is in cards, and hopefully it will be announced soon. The scale may be smaller, but then the similar analytics may also find solutions in tier 3 cities.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, Kapil. And hopefully, we'll see the smaller tier two and tier three cities going on that part of adopting these smart city solutions and improving the traffic efficiency. Moving ahead, I would like to talk about the another chapter of these solutions. So. I think despite the integrated nature of European Union, there remains an uneven level of technological adoption in different states. Now, data is essential for machine learning programs to function, but not every city might have equal access to relevant and high quality data. There can be differences between regions and even within cities themselves. Certain parts may have access to abundant data, and while others may have little or even none at all. So I think the imbalance in the accessibility of data can make it more difficult to implement AI solutions fairly across all regions. As well as this, there are difficulties in guaranteeing that the digital backbone of a smart city is dependable and accessible to all citizens due to the reliability varying in technology infrastructure. So, what are the most common operational challenges you have seen in implementing these AI solutions at city levels? Maybe different cities have different challenges. So, if you could help us highlight that.
I think different city administrators have different mindset. Now, for one, traffic may be a bigger issue. The other, security may be a bigger challenge. I think fundamentally everybody is clear that they have to deploy these so-called smart city solutions. But I mean, the priorities may be different. So that is one common challenge. Second is that knowing the limitation of the AI is also very critical. Now, at times the expectation is that if I've deployed a fire and smoke detection analytics, it should work 100% of the time and it should not miss any particular event. But the deployment scenarios may vary. The position of the camera, occlusion with trees and other things would change the accuracy of the analytics. So, I mean, increasingly customers are understanding those gaps in scenarios, and consultants who essentially are part of these mission are more well versed now with these kind of operational challenges. With regards to data, I mean, fortunately, because we are already deployed at 70 smart cities, our competitors are also at multiple cities. Data challenge is no longer there. I mean, we have trained the AI on initial data sets, and they are kind of by and large replicable across the country now. But there are certain analytics where the data is still not there. So capturing that data and even giving access to that data to acknowledged companies, authorized companies is something which the cities have started to do now. That was our operational challenge earlier, where sharing of data is a big issue. Having said that, though we are clear that this data is required for improvement of the common citizen facilities, but cyber security of this data or even limited access to data is very, very important, because I can practically track your car in a city if I have access to all the information, which I should not have. I mean, it should be only access limited to certain authorized people on a certain event, which is I think a court driven event or a senior police officer event driven event. So I think putting in place those practices is very, very critical, where the access of data should not be given to everyone, because then it can have a potential to misuse that data.
Right. Yes, I think I completely agree with you. And eventually, I think more strategic initiatives are required in terms of dealing with these different perspectives and the operational challenges that we come across. And I think city budgets may also be stretched by the cost of training employees or maintaining infrastructure and also deploying these cutting edge technological solutions. So it can be very difficult to balance these costs with the demands of regulatory implementations. Then you have physical infrastructure improvements, road improvements, and I think the list goes on in terms of necessary services. So I think cities will also need to source some sustainable funding processes and possibly partnerships with businesses in the private sector in order to overcome these budget limitations and guarantee the long-term sustainability of smart city initiatives. We discussed about the challenges and the operational challenges to how cities might be facing in terms of deploying these solutions. What do you think, or what are certain steps or advice that you would give to these city leaders or enterprise organizations who are willing to implement these AI solutions? So, any steps or any advice that you would like to give in terms of overcoming these challenges?
I mean, one is that these smart city solutions have to be deployed as part of the overall city planning scenarios. Some examples I'll give you is that we deployed, let's say, 400 junctions in a particular city. I don't want to name that, but we realized that after 3 weeks, 20 of the junctions are not operational, and then we realized that somebody has actually dug the road where the fiber was passing through. So, I mean, of course, the fiber got cut, and all those challenges came, and then it has to be reinitiated. So, as part of the overall planning, they should be deployed, because once this, let's say, network is deployed and the data is coming, and suddenly you dig up it to make another kind of a main hole or something, that is a challenge. The other thing I would want is that the expectations from the AI should be well tabulated and clear to the leaders of the smart city, where they should know that this AI can do this and this AI cannot do that. So having the expectations correct is very, very important. You did mention about the role of private funding into these smart cities. We have a very successful model in highways, for example, where the private contractors do invest on road and then they collect the toll for that. Somehow the BOT projects in, let's say, traffic enforcement, where it's a revenue generating activity, has not been successful, because most of these projects do not guarantee a kind of a annuity payment to the contractors. Because, I mean, logically, when you deploy a enforcement system, the number of tickets reduce with time, because if I know there is a camera which is doing over speeding, I will actually not speed in front of that camera. Or I see a red light jump solution, it is there, I will not jump the red light. So there has to be some sustainable way of compensating the private operators if they were to kind of invest money in these initiatives and take the money back. Fourth thing which I would like to highlight is that, which has happened in some cities, is that as part of the CSR funding, I mean, Maruti, for example, I know donated some speed enforcement systems to Delhi police, right? Now, if that model can be propagated and institutionalized, then you can have a lot of CSR funding channelized into either an enforcement solution or a smart city solution. So some mechanism to channelize that CSR money into a smart city for these initiatives, which are more public centric initiatives, could actually be a very, very strong way to fund these smart cities, because the government, as you rightly said, can only fund a certain part of cities. But a private money can be channeled in as part of the CSR initiative.
Right. Yes. Definitely makes sense. Also, Kapil, just like one more question. We discussed about the challenges. So I was just reading across certain studies and research papers where I found that a lot of people also mentioned about data privacy and security. Also, one of the challenges in terms of implementing these AI solutions. What are your views on that? Do you still think that that is one of the hurdles in terms of making all cities like a smart city propaganda?
I think it is not a hurdle at this point, but it is important to have those checks and balances, because currently the understanding of city leaders in terms of data privacy is limited. They have to be educated that there is a certain amount of data which can be shared and certain amount of data which should not be shared unless there is a kind of a need for that. Now, we do understand for safety and security, the Data Protection Act does not apply, because police can seek any information from anyone, which makes sense. But then the misuse of that information, because when you have a command center and you have a lot of people operating those systems, so a knowledge about, let's say, access control mechanisms, or let's say checks and balances in place for people who have access to that data in the smart city framework or the police framework, is very, very important, because there is a lot of potential misuse possibility of this data.
Right. Yes, I think that's fair enough. I would say. One last question for you, Kapil. What does the future hold for AI in smart cities? I mean, AI technologies are constantly evolving. We'll soon see more widespread implementation of 5G. So, what are some of the exciting trends that are on the horizon?
So I think we have just scratched the tip of the iceberg as far as deployment of this AI for smart city solutions are concerned. As I said, we have done 100 cities where also all the junctions are not covered. Then we have tier 2 cities, we have tier 3 cities which are still untouched from this mission. Overall, I would say only, if I look at a traffic enforcement scenario, which is our business, probably 10 to 15% of the overall junctions in India are covered, and still you have scope for this 80-85% to be covered by smart city solutions. Looking at the other solutions also, I think the penetration is still much lower of these solutions. because probably of the funding constraints or the cycles of the budgets and things like that. So I think those challenges have to be circumvented. As far as future trends are concerned, I think the cities which have moved forward for putting these analytics would probably go into more predictive analytics, where companies like us or other companies are also working on the field where we try to predict an event before it happens. So currently, the enforcement has changed from reactive, enforcement to a more, I would say, real-time enforcement. But then it has to move to a more predictive analytics. So that's probably going to be the future trend going further in almost all the AI solutions.
Right, yes, I think I completely believe with you. We really need more initiatives that are focused on driving smart city development. And I think to wrap things up, AI is making a tremendous impact on how cities operate, and they're improving everything from transportation to public safety, resource management, even sustainability. And as these technologies advance, we are going to see cities become not only smarter, but I guess more responsive and adaptive to the needs of their residents. Well, thank you so much, Kapil. It was a pleasure having you with us, and it was an insightful conversation regarding smart cities. And thank you for explaining us about the predictive capabilities in smart city solutions and how enterprise analytics solutions, probably by Vehant Technologies, can help cities effectively deploy smart city initiatives.
No, thanks a lot. I think the pleasure is mine. I look forward to having more interactions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kapil. So, this is for our listeners. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Analytics Insight podcast. If you found today's discussion insightful, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes where we explore the latest in technology and innovation. You can view all your previous podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.